It's Monday, November 11th, 2019. And this is the Pro and the Con Show. My name is Michael James Ott. Welcome to the show. So, the Pro and Con Show, trying to get people to be open to, the thoughts of other people, at least willing to listen to opposing views, try to understand where they're coming from, encouraging everybody to be better citizens. Okay, better citizens. That's being more participating more in our government. You only get what you get, and you only get what you give, and of the people, by the people, then and only then for the people. And what I'm talking about is more than just voting. Okay, it's more than just sitting around and whining over a cup of coffee or a beer somewhere. It's about trying to understand the issues with some amount of detail and the whole issues, the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against. So today's show is called Hearings, and just going to focus on, as I, there's like 5 different information sites that I look at, and I'm going to focus on NPR. Okay, so NPR, National Public Radio, mostly unbiased reporting, and basically just reporting. Okay, not all of the opinion that's in a lot of these other information sources. And so I'm going to actually here's the article. The Ukraine impeachment inquiry begins a new phase this week. What you need to know. So what they're doing is they're doing a brief summary of the hearings that are coming up this week. So I don't care who you are, Democrat, Republican, you're a citizen of this country, you should be interested in what's happening with these hearings. Take the opportunity. You might be at work while some of them are going on. Take the opportunity to watch the videos yourself, as to the extent that you can, given your work schedule, and listen to what these people have to say. Get the facts yourself. Don't listen to whatever guy from one party, it was blah blah blah, they did this, they did that, blah 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 blah, that means nothing. Or the other party, blah 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 blah, the world is ending, blah blah blah, and treason and so on. You're a citizen of this country. Take the time to actually gather the facts yourself, and don't listen to the opinions of these other people. Gather the facts, the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against, the who, the what, the where, the when. Okay, so the hearings this week, I believe they start Wednesday. So today's Monday, November 11th, so Wednesday, October 13th. So I'm just going to read through this article. And again, NPR, so source NPR. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her lieutenants are turning a new page in their inquiry this week, with a principle familiar to classic scholars: repetitio mater studiorum. Repetition is the mother of all learning, and I'm pretty sure I pronounced that Latin incorrectly. But anyway, repetition is the mother of all learning. For news audiences, key details about the Ukraine affair have been told so far twice. So first, there was leaked and preliminary accounts of some of the testimony, and then later the full transcripts were released of several of these depositions that have been occurring. And now this week, some of these witnesses are going to again state their stories in open hearings scheduled before the House Select Committee on Intelligence. On Wednesday, lawmakers are scheduled to hear testimony from 2 diplomats, William Taylor, the acting U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, and George Kent, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs. I'll be watching these, and you should be too. On Friday, the committee is scheduled to hear from former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, who was recalled from her mission in Kyiv this spring in an important early stage of the Ukraine affair. So Pelosi and Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff and others believe they've now established the broad facts of the case, having confirmed and reconfirmed them with a number of witnesses. And this would seem to be true. So this thing where Mr. Trump and his associates were demanding a tit for tat, this, quid pro quo, this is this for that, tit for tat. So they were saying, you dig up dirt on Mr. Biden and, confirm or at least publicly state that you are investigating some of the things that we've been advancing is true, or we're not going to give you the military aid that has already been offered and approved by our Congress. We're just going to hold it back. A lot of aid, 400 something $million worth of aid. So Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff are going to have public hearings now where some of these witnesses are going to confirm in public what they've already said in private before both House Democrats and Republicans, by the way. So they want these people to tell their stories in a more open testimony to try to shape public opinion. So they want people to see this. Many of the underlying facts are not in dispute, at least not by most of us. Mr. Trump, of course, denies everything at all times. He's perfect in every way, as he says each and every moment of his life. President Trump authorized his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, to pursue a parallel foreign policy in the Ukraine, separate from that being run by the professional security and diplomatic experts. The White House sought to involve a few administration officials whom it considered reliable in undertaking that parallel policy, and then while excluding others, and apparently they felt that Yovanovitch and Kent were unreliable. And so they moved to get them out of the way to insert their own people to push and extort for what they wanted. The object of these arrangements, according to what witnesses have said, was the strategy to extract concessions from Ukraine's president. Trump would agree to a White House meeting and to the continued flow of military assistance if the president, Mr. Zelensky, committed in public to investigating a conspiracy theory about the 2016 election and the family of former Vice President Joe Biden. Hunter Biden was part of a military thing over there in the Ukraine, contractor, I think. Anyway, another diplomat, George Sondland, told Congress in his addendum to his original testimony, they made it clear to the top aide of the president of Ukraine that the engagement in military assistance depended on these public comments. Ukrainian officials at that conference pressed for the president of Ukraine to meet with Trump, and then National Security Advisor John Bolton wouldn't commit, but Sondland said he had already arranged for a meeting with acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney if the Ukrainians would agree to the investigations, publicly announcing the investigations. It's all about making sure that there's a public thing to help Mr. Trump win re-election against, in theory, Mr. Biden. John Bolton ended the meeting, and he stated to one of the other people present that he wanted no part of this, called it a drug deal. And the fact is that the White House froze about $391 million worth of Ukraine military assistance in the summer, even though it had already been approved by Congress and the Defense Department. The money was eventually released in September. So then Republicans who are supporting Mr. Trump say some various things here. Mark Meadows of North Carolina and Jim Jordan of Ohio are arguing that it's hearsay, even though these people are stating that they heard it directly from the various people, principals involved here. And then let's see here. And then there's other defenses, as in Mr. Trump is inept. So Senator Lindsey Graham says that the president of Ukraine never made the public statement, and that Trump wanted, and accordingly, that Trump had wanted, and accordingly there was no exchange of favors. Moreover, the White House eventually released the frozen military assistance. So, you know, he delayed it, but he didn't withhold it forever. And he didn't get the president of Ukraine to make the statement. So, you know, even though he tried mightily to do it, he failed, and therefore he's not guilty. It's like you walk into a bank with a gun and you say, okay, you know, give me the money, and you take the money and you go running for the door, and somebody has locked the doors, you can't leave the bank. Well, you're failed as a bank robber, but you're charged with bank robbery. I mean, eventually you get caught or whatever, you failed. You know, most criminals fail in their criminal enterprises, but that doesn't mean they're not guilty. They're guilty. They failed in doing what they were trying to do. And so, interestingly enough, Mr. Graham argues that the Trump administration is too incompetent to actually bring about this tit-for-tat type of affair, and so no president should be impeached for being inept. So Mr. Lindsey Graham feels like Mr. Trump is inept and therefore should not be impeached because he is inept. Mr. Lindsey Graham, Republican leader of the Senate from South Carolina. My president is inept. Meanwhile, a House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy from California, calls all of Trump's conduct in the Ukraine case legitimate and within his authority. In other words, if you're president, you can do any damn thing you please, including getting foreign powers to help you win elections. So the trial will come if the House, the lower chamber it's called, the House of Representatives, if they vote to impeach, then at that point it's the equivalent of grand jury indictment, and House lawmakers will state whether they believe there's sufficient evidence to prompt a trial in the upper chamber, which is considered the Senate. And Pelosi and some of the other people working with her said that impeachment isn't a foregone conclusion, and they must, as Jerry Nadler says, he's one of her constituents, keep an open mind and the appearance of an open mind. Even so, it's likely that House Democrats are likely going to vote for sending an impeachment case to the Senate. Congress cannot stand by and abide what Trump has done, because if it does not respond to his actions on the Ukraine affair, its status as a check on the executive branch would become meaningless. I'm not quite sure, or it's unclear how long it's going to take for the House to complete its work and set up the next phase with the Senate. They're unwilling to state exactly when the articles of impeachment might be sent to the Senate. So they're not committing even to passing articles of impeachment, and they're certainly not committed to the schedule if they decide to do that. Chairman Nadler says it's going to take as long as it takes. Now, here's the thing. What is certain is that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who is an ally of the president, has begun to make plans for the Senate to spend some weeks on the trial, this impeachment trial. If House Democrats send over articles of impeachment, he said, the Senate Republicans will take them up. We intend to do our constitutional responsibility, McConnell said. Now, that's the article. That's the end of the article. That would be interesting if Mr. McConnell actually does that. If articles of impeachment are sent to the Senate and he actually allows an impeachment trial to occur, because Mr. McConnell has been famous here for the last handful of years of blocking even the allowance of some of these bills and stuff to even arrive at the Senate floor, which to me is amazing that the rules allow one individual in this world, in this country, to block all kinds of legislation. Okay? So anyway, that is our mandate as citizens, is to pay attention to this, to these public hearings that are happening this week on Wednesday and Thursday, to pay attention to the who, the what, the where, and the when, and form our own opinions about what this means going forward. For the Pro and Con Show, I'm Michael James Ott. Next show again tomorrow. Until then, bye for now.